Do you experience a lot of guilt as a Christian Zionist? Or do you have a friend or family member who, feels guilty all the time that's a Christian Zionist? I know I did. Hi, my name is Julie. I was born into the Christian Science church and religion. And after 40 years, I went my own way. And I feel that brought me back to the original tent of Mary Baker Eddy's teaching and her revelation in 1866. I can just quickly tell you, we shouldn't feel any guilt. You shouldn't feel any guilt. A Christian Zionist should not feel guilty about anything. Even Mary Baker Eddy on, page 455 of Science and Health says a mental state of self-condemnation and guilt or faltering and doubting trust in truth are unsuitable conditions for healing the sick. And that's us. We're taught to heal ourselves and to, use treatments instead of going to doctors or take medicine. So, she's saying you don't want to have a state of mind that's guilt to do that. But everything in the church seems to point to guilt. Here we are, these spiritual beings, like we are soul, absolute, soul, the one soul, one with God. And that is soul. We are the I am, the great I am. We are the higher self. And a little piece of us, our awareness, dipped into the belief of separation, or belief that the material world we see, which is just our thoughts reflected back to us, a little piece of our awareness believed that was our real identity. That was who we are, that what we look in the mirror and who we see, oh, that's who I am. I'm a body, I'm a human, I'm a mortal. I live in this mortal universe here. And that's what sin is in Christian Science. That's the definition of sin in Christian Science, is the belief we're the mortal personality, the one you're seeing in the video. That's not me. I'm behind the scenes. I'm the one projecting this image. I am eternal, infinite, pure love. We all are. We are, amazing beings. But momentarily, we seem to be stuck in this dreamlike state, which is like she called animal magnetism, where we think the opposite, that we're the limited mortal that you see in the mirror. And we, our state of being is a state of limitation. Everything in our world is limited. Resources are limited. Intelligence seems limited. Love seems limited. Time and space are manifestations of limitation. A soul doesn't deal with time, the idea of time and space. An eternal being, time does not pass for an eternal being. There is only the forever now, then there is only the forever here. And we don't really live on earth. We live in a state of being, a state of isness. And all this stuff to make us feel guilty, it's happening within the dream. And it's a lot of things that I suppose in the beginning, our true self is trying to wake us up, trying to help us unwind from this mesmeric state, that thinking we're the personality, this identity crisis. Our true self is trying to help us. Well, is always helping us. It seems like we're a split mind, but we're not, but it seems like it right now. And So it's giving us, direction, guidance, some guide rails, like things that are like, okay, if you stay within these, it'll be easier to wake up. It'll be easier to come out of the illusion, and just stay focused on me and don't get distracted by the stuff around you, and I'll help unwind you. Mrs. Eddy calls it a state of self-examination, where we stop kind of the human reasoning and the human thinking and all that, the human will, and we just surrender our thought to this the divine side of us, the divine truth of us, and ask, like, help me out. Where am I believing? Where am I still stuck? Give me all my sticky points of where I'm stuck in the dream. And so, the soul, our true self, God, is leading us out. Leading us out of Egypt. The Bible is symbolic. It is symbolic of our journey out. And, Christian Science is just that next step, that next daily step of, like, our journey continues here with Christian Science. And then the Course in Miracles is what helps on a day-to-day basis for us to wake up or forgive the world. Forgiveness in the Course of Miracles is what it's called. What happens when the state of mesmerism is controlling things? Like, what happens, like, when Mrs. Eddy appeared to us, when the truth appeared to us in a way that we understood, and we called it Mary Baker Eddy, and we called her revelation Christian Science. It was really the truth appearing to us, coming from our true self, coming from God, from soul, from life, truth, and love. When she appeared to us, she understood the truth. She understood what had come to her. And she was able to help others to start, waking up from the dream, unwinding from the illusion. But when she passed, it was then up to us to do this on our own, and not have her constant guidance and her constant, like, okay, let's, like, the manual came about by, like, we were going, this way. And so she's like, well, here's a manual provision to help us stay within the guide rails. And, and that kept just adding. The manual is still really small comparatively. But, she would speak to us through journal and sentinel articles and through addresses. But we don't have that anymore from someone who so clearly understood the truth and wasn't mesmerized by the dream. And so we're all just like, we're a bunch of mesmerized selves trying to wake up from the dream, and it's going, like you'd expect. And some of the guide rails, that, she didn't speak about alcohol much, or smoking, or sex, or things like that. Just a few places. But, she came from Protestant Christianity in the 1800s, very strict religious background. And the Christians at that time kind of didn't, that was just what it was to be a Christian, was certain things. It meant certain things. And she didn't say much about it. But we, she says Christian Science is for the purpose of Christian Science is the healing of sin. Sin is the whole belief that we are this separate self, this false identity. But like, in that time period between 1910 and now, we all decided sin was things you did in the mesmerized state. If you drink, that's sin. If you smoke, that's sin. If you have premarital sex, that's sin. If you take medicine and go to doctors, that's sin. And there's all kinds of million things that are sin. We decided that. We could have decided that, glasses were sin. drinking glasses. And so we all drink out of paper cups now. We could have decided that mountains are sin, and nobody goes to the mountains because that's just a sin, a place of sin. You know, there is nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. And whatever we decided was sinful, well, that was sinful to us. But there are some, like, you can see some like underlying guardrails, like that the reason she talked about alcohol, because if in the abuse of alcohol, it is definitely harder to wake up. And because the mesmerized state is already mesmerized, and then you add alcohol to it, and it's like 10 times worse. And also it's a coping mechanism for, like, instead of unwinding from the dream, we're coping with alcohol, or coping with smoking, any addiction, shopping, drugs, sex, any addiction. You could have an addiction to using Kleenex. I don't know. Just saying, used in those ways, they're coping mechanisms, and you're just coping with this material illusion that we seem to be stuck in. And something within you doesn't want to be here. It knows this isn't real, and is just, something within you is like, I gotta get out of here. I hate this place. So these things, like, as we learn to turn away from the coping mechanisms, it does become easier to turn our thought to soul, and to learn to be dependent on our divine self to lead us out, instead of looking to something in the dream to, cope and keep us happy or placated, within the dream. But none of these things are bad in and of themselves. It's always like, what is the use of it? Like, I know my teacher, he was like, make sure you don't have sex, and, premarital sex, and try to make sure any partner you're with, so they make sure they don't have sex either. Like, you're helping them. And to him, this world is like, our existence is a systems of right thinking and wrong thinking. If you're thinking right, like, not have sex, then you will progress. But if you're thinking wrong, it's okay to have sex, then you're not going to progress. Like, this mortal mind, this personality, if it thinks right or if it thinks wrong, that's the most important thing. And so we're getting all this stuff that's like, do this and don't do that, do this and don't do that, do this and don't do that, and everybody's got their, everybody's got their definition of what's right and wrong. And if Christian Science, quantum physics is learning what Christian Science already knows. Quantum physics is that our experience is determined by our thoughts. But it's not our human thoughts. It's not our beliefs, like our beliefs about this or that or up or down. It's our thinking in general. It's just how things happen as a spiritual being. Our thoughts appear to us in a way that we understand. there is nothing to feel guilty about in this material world. There is no past mistake you could have made that you need to maintain that guilt because, oh, you did something wrong. Because the truth is, we have no past material existence and no future material. We just live in the now as a spiritual being, and this material dream we're experiencing is an illusion. It is the Adam dream. And I think teachers, practitioners, people within a church, they confuse that. They confuse the concept that let's wake up from the, dreamer, leave thy dreams for joyful waking, captive rise. The Savior comes to thee, the Christ is here, all dreams of error breaking, unloosing bonds of all captivity. This slavery we are in as a human personality with a body that's limited and can be hurt and can die and can be sick, with an existence that can be depressive and restrictive and, sometimes good. It's all the illusion. Why would they want to make you feel guilty within that illusion of what you're doing or not doing, right or wrong? What would be their motivation? It could only be because they got confused, unless they have really bad motives, which I don't think they do. I think they got confused. And I think, like, my dad is a good example. Like, he was a second or third generation Christian Zionist. And what he was always doing was treating his body for illness. And he was trying to make everything perfect in his life. Whatever was perfect needed to be fixed. And to him and to, I think, a majority of the people still in the church and religion, they think that Christian Science is to be used to make your life perfect. I know a lot of Christian Scientists believe that if you use it well and you're a good Christian Scientist, you'll be richer than others, you'll be prettier than others, more handsome than others, you'll have the more perfect family, the more perfect church, the more perfect life. Perfect. The Christian Science is to make our material lives perfect. And if they're not perfect, then we're doing something wrong. And, my dad, up until the time that he passed from heart failure, and he was, I think he was in his 80s, but he had been suffering from heart failure for 10, 15 or more years. And suffering. And the whole family was suffering with him. But up until that, when he passed, he still believed he was a better Christian Zionist than anyone because he never, had premarital sex. He never drank alcohol. He never smoked. He never took drugs. He never went to the doctor. But in his later years, when every time that he was almost at death's door and we'd convince him to go to the doctor and they'd patch him up for a while longer, that made him feel incredibly guilty because he wasn't living the perfect Christian Science life. And the guy was a wreck, He was judgmental because in his quest for perfection, people who hadn't reached perfection were not good enough. In fact, there's that quote, all things work together for good to them that love God, to them who are called according to his purpose. He said to me, only people who love God, things will only be good for them if they love God. Like, it doesn't cover anyone that doesn't love God. That, it was always like them and us. In his world, it was them and us. It was like the non-Christian scientists and the Christian scientists. Like, everyone else was the medical people. The people, like all their doctors and their prescriptions or their drinking and their, it was like poo, look down. Let's look down upon all of that going on. And it was not his love was conditional and his friendship was conditional. He really enjoyed saying things to people in front of their face that embarrassed them or called them out on something. Like, he liked seeing people condemned openly, or like, and there was, there wasn't love. He always said he loved everyone, but obviously not the people that are the people in our family and other Christian Scientists, but not anyone else. And that's called, Mrs. Eddy calls that state moral idiocy, where and she says Christian Scientists, if we don't watch, that's where we'll end up in a state of moral idiocy, because we haven't got it right. We are living a Christian Science life that is our own version of Christian Science. And maybe a lot of people within the church agree with that Christian Science life. It doesn't make it right. It is your version of Christian Science. And living within that, you're wondering, asking all the time, why aren't you being healed? Well, you're living in your own version of Christian Science. And I so much has told him that many times when he said, why am I not being healed? Because he wouldn't listen to anything. And so I said, well, you're living your own version of Christian Science. It's like you're living New Thought. Go join the New Thought church. You're sitting there giving your body a treatment. I'm giving my arm a treatment. Do you have an arm? As a soul, do you have an arm? Well, no, but I believe I have an arm. We believe we have an arm, but do you treat arm when arm hurts? No, you don't treat arm when arm hurts. You don't treat stomach when your stomach exploded. We don't do that. You don't treat ear when your ear hurts. You don't treat head when your head hurts. It doesn't work like that. Like, I had a headache once, a migraine, and it was really bad. I was out shopping, and the pain put me into a dark, depressive place. And I was just like, it was this dark, deep hole I was in. And I was just starting to learn these truths. And for a second, there was this opening where I didn't engage in the dark, deep feeling. And I was like, why am I so bugged out about having a headache? Yeah, it's a migraine, it sucks, but why am I so bugged out about it? And it was like, it came to me all of a sudden, boom, you think it's going to last forever. Like, you're treating it like this is something that's going to last forever. And you're just like, you've given up. It's like, my life is now hopeless because I'm going to have a headache the rest of my life, a migraine for the rest of my life. And I don't know why I thought that. I don't know why that thought had come. It was not my thought. Apparently it was there. I think that's what self-examination brings up, things that are there that you're like, that's there? I didn't know that was my thought. Well, in truth, it isn't. It's a lie that just, it claimed you. Somehow it claimed you. And as soon as that, oh yeah, I'm not, I don't know why I'm so worried. All of the headache just disappeared. And that's real true healing. That's how it works. It's, you create an opening, some truth comes to you where the error is exposed, and poof, whatever it is, maybe it takes many, many, many of those revelations. because it's maybe something you haven't been doing in a while. So for a while, you haven't learned to just open up. You've just taken it upon yourself to treat. And so, but that's new thought. That's power positive thinking. Not that isn't but the way my dad did it. Well, you can't be ill because I'm God's perfect child, and if God's not ill, I can't be ill. Like this kindergarten stuff we are taught in kindergarten Christian Science when we're young. It's okay to be taught this stuff, I guess. I didn't teach my little ones in Sunday school that stuff because I feel like as a tree is bent, so goes it. I don't think we really need to teach that, but it is. Mrs. Eddy did teach, some steps of getting our thought and working in the right direction. She called it reason rightly directed. But just this treatments of the mortal mind, just, I can't be ill because God's not ill. Da 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 da. My stomach is a reflection of God, so it can't have anything that's not like God. On and on and on. That was his perception of Christian Science that he lived within. And within that, he wanted to have a healing, a treatment, a healing, a Christian Science healing. And and that's what's happening in the movement today. Why aren't we having healings like we used to? Well, they used to do it the right way. That's really a blunt way to do it, to say it, but we used to do it the right way, which is like not that. We're just all about treatments today, and the human mind is the one treating in every case. And the teacher that doesn't understand that teaching treatments is teaching the human mind to heal, then they don't get it at all. And that's like so many of them. They don't get it at all. And how, what are we to do? So are you gonna feel guilty now? Like, are you gonna let the guilt go? And you're gonna say, well, maybe the ones that should feel guilty are the teachers that are teaching 30 people a year wrong and martyring Christian Scientists on a daily basis by not teaching them correctly. Maybe if someone's going to feel guilty here, let them feel guilty, but there's no need for us to feel guilty. This mortal illusion is a pain in the butt. It sucks, and so yeah, we've compensated in certain ways. We've comforted ourselves in other ways. I'm not, who cares? Like, if you want to wake up and if you want healing, real healing, and not physical healing, but real healing of the dream of life and matter, which is called sin, which, the Bible called it sin. We have to stick with that. Mrs. Eddy explains sin as the belief of life, truth, intelligence, or substance and matter. The belief that the personality you're seeing in the video is my true self. That's sin. It's not my sin. It's the belief of sin. It's the claim of sin on us. So there's no reason to feel guilty. You could not do anything that makes you a better or worse human than other humans. We're all just in this together. We're all just, all the addiction, all the depression, all the stuff like that. People working so hard for, more money, more fame, more anything. Even that is just because this dream, this illusion is not our true self. It's not, and this is not our true home. And you can't blame anyone for what they do in the illusion. Yeah, if what you're doing in the illusion is hurting others, then it's hurting their chance to break out from the illusion too. And it's probably hurting your chance to break out from the illusion if you're knowingly hurting people, or if your addictions are hurting and affecting others. Then yeah, the goal would be to get help with those, whatever way you're led to. And there's many ways. And just, but just knowing, and taking medicine and going to doctors. Why on earth would you feel guilty about that? I mean, the doctors, the medicine, all that stuff, it's within the dream. It's using the dream to patch things up, just like treatment, human, like mental treatment on a material basis, which is what most teachers teach today. That treatment is just patching up the dream, just like the medicine and doctors are a belief patching up another belief, and mental treatments are a belief patching up another belief. And my teacher went so far as to say that temporary means are that treatment, that form. The mental treatment on a material basis is temporary means, which it's all temporary means, which he said if you don't go to doctors and don't take medicine, then you are safe. Radical reliance, that's the buzzword in Christian Science, radical reliance. Like if someone really wants to gotcha, is they tell you that's not radical reliance. It's like saying that the human mesmerized self, as long as it does this one thing, which is called radical reliance, which is not going to doctors and not taking medicine, then you'll be fine as long as you have this radical reliance. It's like within the dream, this will work. And it does not work. It does not work. We Christian Scientists die right and left. Christian Scientists are sick. Christian Scientists are stuck in nursing homes. And then families start to intervene and say, hey, this is wrong. And they get their family members help, but their family members, the Christian Scientists, stay in a state of guilt, constant guilt that keeps them stuck, even if they're getting help in any way, and even if the guilt is keeping them stuck. This claim on us that there were mortal personality shouldn't make you feel guilty. The word sin should not make you feel guilty. Stuff that you've done should not make you feel guilty. Stuff that you are doing should not make you feel guilty. It's not about all the stuff we do in this world. It's like how we're thinking about things and wanting to get out of it, wanting to wake up from this mortal illusion and to get out of this, hellhole. This mortal state of mesmerism, thinking that we're a personality, thinking that this world is our world, that's the only hell there is. It's the only hell there is, and it's a state of mind. Because we are mind. We aren't bodies. As the true beings we are a divine mind. And so there's not a place called hell. There's a state of mind called hell. And that state of mind is this mesmerized state, and it's very uncomfortable for us as spiritual beings, as souls. It is very uncomfortable for us to be here. And I can tell you, if you want to wake up, then all you have to have in your heart is this desire to unwind and to allow your true self, the divine self, to guide you out and to listen and to be willing and stop talking. Stop the arguments the constant arguments that you're doing, and the constant self-condemnation is, oh, I did this, and oh, I shouldn't have done that, and now I'm not going to have a healing, and oh, da, 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 da. Stop the self-condemnation. Stop mortal mind from that's all mortal mind. Make it shut up and don't listen to it anymore and put it out. Go into your closet, go in, with the divine mind and listen. And if you want healing of any kind, that's where it starts. It starts in the unwinding, and everything is healed through the unwinding process. Everything, things that we have no idea. You have no idea how tight you are wound in the stream, and how you've accepted things that were limiting that you never had to accept. But we don't know any better. We're just stuck in this. Blah. You know, and so much will come out of it, so much good, you know. And obviously there's adjustments that have to be made. You know, when I was coming out of it, adjustments were made in my life, that, you know, that to change the trajectory of all kinds of things. And some of those adjustments are uncomfortable at first because you don't know why your world is falling apart. But then you find out, oh, my world wasn't falling apart. The world that I thought was my world was falling apart, only to find that behind it, underneath it, was true happiness, you know. Was a place where I could be happy. And the true harmony is being uncovered. Peace is being uncovered. True joy, true happiness. A happiness not dependent on anything, but it comes from within, from our true nature, from who we really are. And then despite what's going on around us, we still find this peace and this happiness as we unwind, because we're seeing more and more, oh, it's not real, I don't care. I don't care if it seems like the world is falling apart. It's not real. That's not really what's going on. And you see that more and more and more and more and more. But if you dip back into guilt, it pulls you back into the dream. Guilt pulls you back. Self-condemnation pulls you back into the dream. And you don't need it. You don't need it. You don't need the guilt or the self-condemnation anymore. You've done nothing wrong. Let's wake up together and let's support each other. But most importantly, it's, you know, it's our own journey, and we'll be given everything we need to do it from our true self, who's right there with us. Obviously, where could it go? Where could God go? Well, you know, nowhere that we're not, because that's our true self. So I hope that helps.